Nice. Go ahead.
That was wimpy, just like yours.
Yeah, you got it. There you go.
Yeah, better. Okay. Well, welcome back. Nick and I are back here. We're just going to chit-chat briefly. I have some thoughts swirling around in my head about the last 2 decades of hunting that I've done and participated in. And I know what my answers might be to some of these questions, but I wanted to get your take too, because I know things are different for you than when you were 12 or 13 years old and started hunting.
2 decades, that's freaking crazy. Because I still feel like I'm like 18 and I've been hunting for like 5 years.
I know. The kids and I run around the yard sometimes. The weather's getting warmer, so they want to do squirt gun fights. And like, I jump over things that I definitely shouldn't be jumping over anymore.
Yeah, it's depressing. Super depressing. That's what I was talking to Dave last night, and he was like, I hope I can climb a tree stand this year. And I kind of like laughed, and he was like, no, I'm being dead serious. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, each year it's like, it's noticeably tougher. I'm like, dude, I didn't even think about that. Like, you know, just eventually you get to the point where you're like, I can't do that anymore.
Not everybody can be Cam Hanes and Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
You know? So my thought was, we're just coming out of turkey season. Things are winding down. And I used to think, back in the day when I first started turkey hunting, we had, at least in our area, we had increased populations. We used to be able to get on birds pretty much no problem wherever we went. We had more permission in order to hunt because there were turkeys everywhere, so you could go and just ask a bunch of people. And now today you have to be very selective about who you ask, and you could ask somebody and a turkey may never step foot on their property. I used to have a real draw to want to draw back a bow and shoot a turkey with archery tackle. And today, I have absolutely no desire to do that anymore. Not even like a flicker of that pops into my head ever. It's like turkey hunting is a shotgun sport. And for deer hunting, I used to be the opposite. I used to only want to bow hunt deer. And now we did the rifle hunt out west, and I've killed a couple of deer with a shotgun in our home state. And like it's just a different experience. And I don't think I could ever find myself saying I only ever want to bow hunt deer. Like, I used to be one of the biggest fans of bow hunt or die. And I think those guys are missing out on half of what their hunting experience could be because they don't shoot things with guns. It's just different. So what do you think? Has anything like that ever popped into your head?
I've thought way more about it this season than any season in the past, and just because I've knocked people in the past for shooting with a bow just because it doesn't seem...
Turkey specifically.
Turkey specifically. And this year I was kind of like, I kind of want to shoot one with a bow just so I know if I'm, you know, I don't want to knock somebody if I haven't tried it, basically, sure, type deal. I don't think I'll like it, and I don't know that I'll actually try it because I'm like you. I think they were meant to be hunted with a shotgun. And I don't really know what it is. Almost like...
It's just like, you know, it feels right.
Yeah.
Can't describe it, but it just feels right.
I will tell you, like, I know with a shotgun, you know, you shoot him in the head, right? Shoot him in the neck, head. With a bow, the guys that, like, decap them, like, I don't like that at all.
No.
And I know that's probably a very, you know, not probably, that's a very quick death. I know it's, you know, technically humane. There's, like, a respect aspect that just, I think that's, like, really disrespectful. And then their argument would be, like, but it's lethal. It's a quick harvest, and I get that, but it's just
not illegal.
It's just wrong. I just would feel really icky doing that. And then the flip side to that is a lot of times when guys shoot them in the body, they're just like
they're mangled
and flailing and feathers everywhere, and
there's got a blood trail.
They'll run off, yeah. And I don't like that. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, but I think I would like to try it at some point just so I can say like, okay, I've tried it. Yeah, it's not my thing, but. For deer, I'm the same way. I hunt them, I guess, either and be perfectly tickled and fine and whatever. I guess different years I want different things maybe.
Yeah.
You know, if you shoot one with a shotgun, like next year, I feel like I just kind of naturally want to get one with a bow or whatever. But, yeah, I don't have any gripes with hunting deer either way.
Yeah.
But.
Same thing happened for me because we got saddles, and I really enjoyed the first year hunting with a saddle. I really enjoyed it because of how light and compact it was. It was easy to pack pretty much anywhere that I wanted to go. But I don't care. I don't care who you're talking to or what they say. Saddles are uncomfortable as hell. They are not comfortable to sit in. And so, like, I think now it's a good tool to have in my arsenal because of the way that we hunt together. I think that would be the perfect situation for a cameraman if I'm accompanying somebody on a cameraman, as a cameraman. Especially if we're doing it like out of state, whitetail hunting in the woods somewhere. But I mean, anymore, the stands have gotten so good. They're so light. They're compact too. The added it is comfort, but I think I'm more attentive in the woods if I'm sitting down on a seat than if I have to worry about trying not to swing back and forth or get bored and then swing back and forth. Or, saddles are tricky to get adjusted exactly right. And so many times I find myself hunched way up, and it's not an enjoyable experience to go and sit and hunt that way every single time.
Yeah.
And so I used to think when we first got our saddles, I was like, I'm never going back to a tree stand. And now I've completely changed my mind on that too.
Yeah, it's just such a trendy thing. But I'm with you. I love being able to sit facing away from the tree. Like I love that.
Yeah.
Going back to the archery hunting turkeys, I think another big element for me is the decoy aspect. Like, if you're gonna hunt them with a bow, you're gonna hunt them over decoys. You're probably gonna be in a ground blind. I don't like either of those ways of hunting. There's a time and place when I'm like, obviously hunting with Eli this year, like a decoy and a blind is best case scenario for a youth hunter, and I'm all for that. Totally support that. It's great. I might take Allison hunting here next weekend. If she decides to get on the gun, I'm probably going to put decoys out. She's never hunted a day in her life. I probably will. I guess I don't know for sure. I might. I'll probably take them just in case.
Sure.
But yeah,
a tool to have in your arsenal, right? Just like the saddle is a tool to have in your.
Yeah.
You want to be able to pull that tool out and use it if you need it.
Sure. I personally, I can't remember the last time I shot one over a decoy. I don't know that I've ever shot one out of a ground blind, but I think that's part of it too. Like, I would much rather prefer to hunt them in the timber, coming in looking and use the terrain to outsmart them at their game than sit in a blind over decoys and shoot them with a bow.
Sure.
I don't know. I've become more and more against the decoy thing just because I feel like it, like I said, there's a time and place for them, but man, I feel like it's like a completely different experience. Like, I feel like it's almost two different sports. Like, and I just much rather prefer to participate in the other sport.
Yeah, I agree. I was curious on your thoughts on those.
Yeah, and as far as the tree stand stuff, dude, we are so spoiled. I mean,
because of the access to technology that we have in tree stands, or
just the gadgets and gizmos and everything that comes. I mean, like, man.
Do you remember the first hanging hunt we ever did?
Yeah.
Is it the one that you? Well, I guess it wasn't. It wasn't technically a hanging hunt, but we had a property.
It was.
This was a long time ago. If we're thinking about the same one, and we had heard of, I think it was Jared Mills had done this, where he went in like at midnight when the deer were all out in the fields.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Those stands. Do you remember that giant? I think it was a hawk.
It was
like
Bigfoot.
30 inches wide. It was a huge. It's like 18-pound tree stand.
I don't know what the brand was, but it was literally called the Bigfoot tree stand. And I actually put that on my back and hunted Southern Ohio public land with Corey, and it was the dumbest thing ever. Like, I can't believe that I even. It's fun to look back on this stuff. Like, I used to wear the knee-high rubber boots everywhere I went. I remember hiking.
Now I don't wear those at all.
The mountains in Kentucky wearing those, and like somebody was like, "Why don't you have like hiking boots?" And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like, I just never I thought you just wore knee-high rubber boots when you hunted. I just thought that's what you did.
Yeah.
It's just funny how you go through those progressions.
And for me, too, like, as kids, we always had, like, the 1,200-gram Thin Slate boots.
Oh, yeah.
Like, now it's like, give me a nice pair of wool socks and some uninsulated boots, and I'm actually way more comfortable in really cold weather that way.
I'll do everything in my power not to wear knee-high rubber boots in the woods. Yeah,
there's some, like I said, there's a tool in your toolbox, something you can pull out and use when you absolutely need it, but... Yeah, there's all kinds of things like that. I wondered if you had remembered that hunt where we went in, and it was like midnight. We went back.
Yeah, there. I completely forgot about it, but I do remember that. And I wonder if that, like, if there's something to that. Like, the theory was, whether it was Jared Mills or Bill Wiki, whoever, was like, go in there when they're like out in the ag fields or whatever. You're not going to be like disturbing a bunch of stuff, which is kind of funny because we had to walk through like 3 ag fields to get back in there. But. Yeah, I wonder if there's something to that, actually.
I don't know. I mean, there have been plenty of times where you're walking in the morning and it's 3:30 or 4 o'clock because you got to get in early and you see deer in the woods. So like I think that hard and fast rule of deer in the ag fields at night is kind of painting with a broad brush. But,
for sure.
I mean, maybe your chances are less likely of spooking a good buck or something
I could
like
see
that.
like if you're like wanting to hang a stand like in a bedding area or something.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
That makes sense to me.
Yep,
like he's
for sure.
probably not in there in the middle of the night, and could be, but like your odds are probably better of him being in there if you went to hang a stand at noon as opposed to midnight. But
So the other thing that I was thinking about is, do you remember when we were kids with Dad and we would walk in the woods? Dad was anti-headlight at the time. Do you remember walking in pitch black, tripping over stuff? And like,
oh yeah,
now I don't know that I would ever go into the woods in the dark without a headlamp.
it's so funny how like my mindset back then was just like, why would you wear a light? Like they're gonna see you. And then you just learn about deer and you realize like that was completely wrong, but like that made sense at the time. But yeah, I'm exactly with you. Like we have literally walked within feet of deer with headlamps. I think it's just like your headlights on a car.
Yep.
They can't
they can't see what's behind it.
Yeah, if you're
all
walking,
they see is the light.
And if you're listening to this and you haven't experienced this, just go hunting with your buddy and after dark or before light, separate, turn your headlamp on and walk at each other. You literally can't see them behind the headlamp.
Well, and it's really hard to judge distance too. Like it's hard to tell if they're 100 yards or if they're 50 yards or if they're 75 yards away.
Yeah, I will never not. Yeah, I remember having to walk so close, like, and trying to pay so much attention to step, like, in his boot tracks at all possible, and, like, squinting to see better. Just because, like, if he didn't trip, like, if I step exactly where he did, then, or if, he didn't break a branch, if I step exactly there, then I'll be good. But yeah, if you would have pulled a headlamp out back then, I would have been like, you're ruining our hunt.
Well, and the headlamp would have been like this big because of the tech back then.
It's funny how that stuff just changes. I remember, too, back then, he used to buy I wish I knew what brand it was, but it was gum.
Yeah,
it was
the
like
camo gum.
It was alfalfa flavored.
It was delicious.
Gum. I don't remember if it was good or not, but I remember every time an evening hunt, I would walk in and halfway through the hunt, I would pull it out and I'd stick it on a branch, and I thought it was gonna like attract a deer.
I remember that
like,
too.
I would like we'd get to wherever we were gonna sit, and I'd take it out and like stick it against the bark and think like, oh, it's gonna be like in the air now, and they're gonna smell it and come in. There's no way that worked at all. Obviously, I don't even think it worked with dissipating your mouth odor probably, but that's funny. They should probably bring that back in like a Zyn pouch or whatever. You know, those Zyns are super popular. Like bring out a camo. I shouldn't even bring that up. We could do that.
I remember. I think it was the alfalfa flavor. I remember thinking it was delicious. Like I've tried alfalfa like from a hayfield before. It doesn't taste like that gum tastes.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was good or not, but I distinctly remember that being a thing.
So funny.
Yeah.
Scent control has changed for sure, and our outlook on camouflage. Like we used to be like camouflage face masks so that just your lips and your eyeballs would show.
Yeah.
It's like now I just assume hunting t-shirt, some dark colored pants.
I will say though, like I very much realized about myself that like once I like check something off, I kind of want to try something else. So like last year, I like full send checked off the like hunting low, no camo, killing them close. Like granted, it wasn't a giant, it was this deer right here, but like 6 feet off the ground, tree the size of my calf, yellow flannel shirt, khaki pants. And, he came by at like 4 steps or whatever. I bought some Osseo camo this year because, like, after I did that, I was like, I want to try some different camo now. I tell you what, I don't know about the camo pattern. I think it almost, to me, looks like it, like, I don't know if melts is the right word. I've probably heard someone describe it that way, and that's where my brain wants to use it. But it's like...
Like you fade into whatever the background is.
Yeah, like Kuiu and Sitka and some of those, like, and I love Kuiu's like gear. I think they make some of the best gear. I don't love the camo pattern. To me, it like glows or pops almost. Yeah. This is just like it's like dull almost. And he's supposed to have like modeled it after an owl. He says like an owl is the #1 camouflaged wild animal on the planet. And it's top-notch quality stuff. Like you can tell just putting it on, like this stuff was thought out. So I'm curious I'm going to try that out this year and see what it's like. But you're absolutely right. You do not need camouflage. I crack up when I see those videos like that are clearly like sponsor driven, where they're like, we couldn't have couldn't have done it without our whatever camo. I'm like, no, you could have.
Yeah,
you
thanks to Masio for hiding us up
yeah,
in the trees.
You didn't need that. You could have done it without that.
For turkeys,
Thanks
I think
for the
that's
plug.
a much different story.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But for deer, yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever. I don't envision myself ever like buying expensive camouflage unless like I have that one really nice late season set that's camouflage because it's going to keep me warm when it's. I mean, it did keep me warm. I sat outside in like 15-degree weather all day long with that once. And I had no hand warmers or anything. So I like it for that. It just so happens that the gear that's going to keep you warm is pretty much only designed in camouflage.
And that was the motive for me too. I had not bought like heavyweight camo for like over 10 years. Like it just didn't fit me great anymore or whatever. It was kind of like baggy and stuff anyway. So that was the main motive. Is I've been getting really cold probably because I've lost a ton of weight, but like I've been getting really cold the last couple seasons, and I don't like hunting when I'm really cold. So I was like, I need something that's going to be nice, warm, comfortable, whatever. And like you said, all of that stuff. At least, I mean, I'm sure there's stuff out there that's not camouflage. I just don't know it like I know, some of these hunting camo companies. So
yeah,
I went that route anyway. I said, might as well buy something that's cool. So.
Has your opinion changed on fixed blade versus mechanical blade broadheads? Because you've done more experimentation with that than I have.
Man, I'm just very much. It's funny you asked that because I was listening to the Hunter podcast yesterday, and they're going to shoot the Beast broadhead this year, that expandable. Obviously, we've all shot both. I don't know. I think it depends more on like the poundage you're shooting, your draw length, and maybe even your arrow weight than the actual broadhead. And I don't know, I practice a lot, and that's one thing that I'm like, knock on wood, I'm really confident in. Like I don't know, there's a few things in life that I'm really confident with, and just luckily shooting my bow has always been one of them that I'm just super comfortable shooting a bow. And like when I draw back on a deer, I don't know, I just feel really, really confident, and I just rely on myself to put it where I know I'm going to put it. So I like the expandables. I like the way they fly. We talked about before this podcast, I used to like the tinkering and the researching and the this and the that. Anymore, I just want something I know is going to work. And, for me, it's been the expandables. So I shot a Rage last year because I wanted to basically prove people wrong. I think Rage is a fine broadhead. They get a lot of flack and a lot of hate, but I don't have a problem with them, so I shot them just kind of out of spite. But
I mean, like anything, there can be failures for sure. They got a bad rap for a long time, but
yeah, and I'm sure. I mean, they have so many different models now. Like I'm sure there's like I did shoot one. It was the yellow one, whatever that is. I don't know what it's called, but whatever the yellow one was, I shot that buck right there with at like 10 yards through the heart, and like he only went like 50 or 60 yards probably, but we didn't find like any blood. It was just this like slice, and it literally just like the flaps just like closed. And the chisel tip though, the red one or whatever, that's what I've shot. That's what I shot that buck with, and I've shot some other deer with.
That was a heck of a blood trap.
Oh yeah, it just opens them up, man. So I'll probably shoot him again this year. Yeah, I actually considered. I think the Beast broadhead is exceptionally well made and thought out, and I think Josh Bomar is a very intelligent businessman, and I think he probably makes a really good product. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of his decisions and his personality and stuff. I don't know. He's probably a fine dude, but I don't know that I could shoot that broadhead right now anyway. No hate, just some of the allegations and stuff, I don't know if I want to support that.
Keep your distance.
Yeah. So
there are some things that you have to touch with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, exactly. So like I say, people make mistakes. So he's human. But I don't know. What about you? You've been shooting those Whack'ems for like ever now,
dude,
and you've
had
good luck with
broadheads.
them. So.
I just don't know. I don't know, because I'm at a point now where I was in such a slump with wounding deer and not getting penetration at all, regardless of where I hit them, that like I needed something that was just going to work. And so I went basically as heavy an arrow as I could and a fixed blade. I mean, those Whack'ems only have like an inch cut radius, so it's not a big wound channel compared to like those rage, some of them are like 2.5 inches or something. When I walked up and saw the hole in that deer, I thought like that's like borderline abuse. It was like a 4 or 5 inch hole in that thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I'm going to do. I would love to shoot something that gives me more velocity out of the bow without sacrificing penetration. And so I'm probably going to lean towards a small diameter carbon arrow with an outsert and probably 125 grain head. But I don't know that Wacom is going to fit that bill. Maybe I get a heavier outsert and then just shoot the 100 grain broadhead on the front of it and see how they fly. But that's the other thing that's difficult for me. Is like I know that for whitetails, the setup that I was using, though it shoots slow, if I've got a deer at 30 yards, it's probably going to be lethal if I put it where I put the pin. And I'm not going to have a lot of time to tinker. I'm not going to have a lot of time to, or I don't want to spend the money to go and try like 6 different types of arrows. I want to be able to get one that I know is going to get me close and then tinker from there. So I don't know really where I want to go from there.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to increase the poundage on my bow because I am who I am. I'm not going to be able to change my draw length, but increasing draw weight might help get a little bit more oomph out of that bow.
What are you at, 60 right now?
I think it's like 62.
Yeah.
So, and it can go up to like 70.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd have any problem pulling 70.
No.
But I don't know. Is that going to make the bow louder because of the more force, adding more vibration? Is it going to offset the speed that I gain because it's louder? I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah. That's the thing. It's almost overwhelming because
it
there's
almost
so
is.
many routes you can go, and none of them are right or wrong. Like, you know, you'll get this group that's like swears by this, and this group swears by this, and the reality is, if it works for you, just keep doing it. And that's kind of where I was with Rage. Is like everybody hates on them, but like they probably, I bet across the board, if you did a poll, they probably kill the most deer every season.
I guarantee they do.
Because it has become the broadhead that people just kind of like whatever, you know, slap on, but it works. Like it's because it's reliable, I guess. But I don't know who it was. I asked somebody what type of broadhead it was. I don't know if it was on Facebook or what, but it was like a meat processor and what they find most in deer, and it was Rage's.
I'm sure.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh,
that's not an indictment of the Rage. It's probably an indictment of the hunters that are shooting the Rage broadheads more than anything. But
yeah, probably.
I guess also more of them out there, so it's more likely that a deer would have an injury from a Rage than any other broadhead because there's so many of them being shot.
Yeah. When it comes to my compound setup, that's probably what I'll do. But like I told you, I plan on hunting with my recurve a little bit, and I bought some single bevels. I honestly forget what the name of. I've never heard of them before. Oh gosh,
where'd you buy them?
Sportsman's Den. There's a newer employee there who moved from like Montana up here.
I didn't know they carried that style of broadhead.
Oh yeah. Well, so he only hunts with a recurve. He's killed elk and all kinds of stuff with his recurve, giant whitetails. And so I was asking him. He helped me set everything up, and I had told him I wanted the is it Magnus?
Yeah, that's one of them.
And he was like, "Don't buy them." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, I've had more problems with those than any other single bevel head." Yeah, he said he shot a bull elk at like 10 yards with one, and he said it basically like bounced off of it, and he picked it up, and the front of the blade was literally like bent 90 degrees.
Really?
Like it hit a rock or something, and it literally just hit the deer or the elk. Yeah,
that's
crazy.
So
he said, I don't know if it had to have hit a rib or a shoulder or something, but so he recommended this other. Gosh dang it, they're literally in my basement, but I can't think of what they're called. I haven't even put them on arrows yet. That's how green and new I am, but yeah, he swore by those, so we'll see. There's a lot to it. You talk about tinkering and stuff. There's a lot I'm still trying to figure out when it comes to that whole game. And
I would love to hunt with a recurve someday, but I just don't have the bandwidth to try to take on a project like that. So this season, I'm going to live vicariously through you, and hopefully with a camera in my hand to experience it firsthand.
That'd be cool. The other thing, though, is like, and I'm still tossing this back and forth, and I'm sure I can feel it now. We'll have a nice buck show up on camera, and I'll be like, I'm hanging you up. But it doesn't feel like I've killed enough nice bucks yet to go like full recurve. So that's why I said, like, especially now that I'm eating like a ton of venison. I didn't used to cook or I was only eating venison if like mom made it. So now I eat venison like 4 days a week. So I plan on shooting at least one doe, maybe two this year, just because I'm eating so much of it.
Yeah.
But I would love to like early just set up on a trail 6 feet off the ground and shoot whatever doe walks by.
Yep.
And then buck hunt with my compound. That would be ideal, but we'll see. Or a buck. I mean, if one like that walked by with the recurve, I'd be thrilled. I
tell you what, talking about eating venison, in our family, last year I shot 3 deer, 2 does and a buck, and I only kept the back straps and ground everything else up because we eat it in chili and in vegetable soup and meatloaf and all kinds of things. We make our own burgers with it, and they're all gone. It's like, you can go and buy a quarter of a cow and you're going to get more meat pound for pound than by shooting 3 deer. So like I need to get Eli to start shooting more deer.
Seriously. Like I didn't realize how quick you go through it because like growing up we didn't eat it like a ton. Mom would make
we always
it,
had beef
every
too.
now and then, and so it felt like, I don't want to say it was going to waste, but I'm sure some of it did. And yeah, now same thing. I was just looking in the freezer yesterday. I have like 2 or 3 packs left. I'm like, dang, man.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I definitely plan on shooting a couple deer, which the state claims, we need more doe shot. So, which I thought of you when I heard all that, because I was like, Jake does his part. you shot.
That's last season is the first season that I filled every tag that the state allows in our county. Never done that before.
Yeah.
It's only ever been a doe and a buck if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think I've shot a doe in.
Yeah, you used to say you didn't like to, but when meat's on the table and that's something that you need.
I mean, selfishly, I didn't want to deal with it. I was just like, I don't want to hassle with it. For me, it was always like for just a doe. But now that I'm, like I said, like relying on it for fuel, I look at it completely differently.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I think too, I don't have as much pressure, like we talked about on the last podcast with like shooting a buck. Like, been blessed to shoot some good ones the last handful of years. Like, obviously I'm going to try, and I hope I can again, but like if it doesn't work out and I shoot a doe this year, whatever, great,
Yep.
So
yeah, I agree. I would love to do some out-of-state doe hunting just to increase the amount of venison we bring home.
There you go.
I don't know if time will allow for that. We'll have to wait and see. And I got to get, because Eli's been asking me, I got to get the crossbow and get him at least started on that, because he's not strong enough to pull back a regular compound bow, though he would love to if he could.
Yeah.
So the crossbow is going to be the way to get him started.
That's
for
what
sure.
Crossbows should be used for. Like, it's such a great tool for.
Well, and it's not going to be a Raven. It's going to be a standard crossbow that can shoot 40 or 50 yards. If you're a good shot, his crossbow is going to shoot a deer at 20 yards.
Yeah.
Hopefully closer than that.
Yep, exactly.
And if I have to put a corn pile out to get that to happen, I'm going to put a corn pile out to do that. Yep,
no doubt. And I'm sure we'll be able to. That's the natural progression. He got his turkey, and now, Now and move on to that.
He's hungry for it now because he's got to taste a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So,
gosh dang it, there was something. Oh, you mentioned time, dude. I listen to, like, I don't listen to music anymore. Well, I shouldn't say anymore. Very rarely. Like, I have a podcast on most hours of the day, especially because I spend a lot of time in my truck.
Yep.
And obviously, I listen to majority hunting related podcasts, and it's so funny how like it's so saturated now with like asking people like for their like tips on how to harvest deer and whatever, and you'll hear a million different tips and tricks, and this is what I do, and I look at the moon phase, and I hunt the downwind side of bedding, and scrapes, and this and that. Really, to me, when I hear all of that, the biggest umbrella for the tips and the tricks is time.
Spend time out there.
All the people that are killing big deer year after year after year after year, there's the scrapes and the this and the that and the other. It's time. That's what it is. Yeah, you killed them on a scrape. Well, it's because you were able to be out there for so long and so many days or whatever, or you were afforded the time to sit on the sidelines and watch and be meticulous and whatever. But like the key for all of those guys, they all have their little niches and whatever, but it's the overarching umbrella is just is time.
I remember back in the day, this is probably in the early days of Hushin'. Remember that? So I was listening, I think it was a video, elk hunting video, and Eric was trying to chase an elk, and he had spent like 3 or 4 days trying to get on this big herd bull. I think it was in Utah. I can't remember. Utah, Arizona, somewhere out there where there's big elk. And he was getting discouraged in the video, and one of his buddies came up and said, time and pressure. And as whitetail hunters, we hear the word pressure, and it's instantly like negative stigma. But his point was, you got to spend enough time out there, close enough to them,
so like
and
aggression.
Eventually a shot will present itself.
Time being aggressive. Yeah.
Time and pressure is what he said. It's like that's very true.
It is.
And we've seen that actually with whitetails too. Like the deer you killed a couple years ago that we had seen, was it like 3 days in a row in the exact same
3
area?
or 4, yeah.
It's like the old school whitetail wisdom would have said that deer was long gone when you busted him the first time. And we saw him 2 or 3 days in a row in the same spot doing the exact same thing, and you ended up killing him.
Yeah.
It's like that's a time and pressure hunt. That time and pressure caused the success of that hunt.
Well, and the time aspect of that is like the reality is, I think Dad and I saw him it was a Sunday night, because you went in there the following evening on a Monday, the very next night, and he did something a little different, and you killed your really nice buck, and then Easton maybe hunted the following night. I guess he didn't see him, and then I hunted maybe like the next or whatever. Regardless, a lot of people, and we've been blessed with jobs that have afforded us time to hunt. A lot of people, that Sunday night, that would have been their hunt, and they would not have hunted until that next Saturday. Maybe not a lot of people, but that's the reality of some situations, and there's nothing they did wrong. It's just, he was doing something, and by the time, 6-7 days later, he might be doing something completely different. So that's like, time is such a huge factor when it comes to these guys. So like, if you're I guess the lesson out of that is like, if you're a younger guy or a kid or whatever, and you're thinking about your future career path or whatever, and like, this is something you're really passionate about, I don't know, maybe consider going to school for something that may allow you a little more time or flexibility or whatever, where you can kind of...
regardless of the job that you have, it's probably if you have the knowledge about the area that you're hunting, hopefully with some historical data about the deer movement on that piece, the deer that are in that area, maybe where the crop fields are at, what mast crops are in that area, and so you can kind of narrow down what geography you need to be in order to see deer. It's probably you probably have better odds taking an entire week off and hunting morning, afternoon, and evening every single day for that entire week than you are hunting Saturday and then Saturday and then Saturday and then Saturday, because you can apply time and pressure in that week-long period, and you can't do that if you're spreading it out every weekend for 3 months.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, that's a great point. It's kind of the same thing of like, hunting one property instead of bouncing all these other ones. I think that hurt us for a while. It's like, we were blessed and fortunate enough to have a lot of properties, and this was really before we were running like camera strategically, so we didn't really know what was on each property, but we were bouncing around so much instead of like honing in on one. And you miss your opportunity. Yeah, it can work, but you also miss a lot of opportunities, I think, because you might have been getting close to one, and then you're like, I had a slow sit, so I bounced over here, and then he crushed that scrape on the next sit. If you would have just been there again.
How many times did that happen to us? Whereas like when cell cams first started to come out, we'd be like, let's go hunt over here. And we were tossing about maybe going over here and just decide not to. And then he's there. And then we go and hunt here, and then another buck shows up over here. It's like, instead of splitting your time in those 2 locations in 2 days, if you had spent 2 days in one spot, you would have killed something.
Yeah.
Time and pressure.
I like that a lot. That's something to keep in mind. That mindset, like, I've always been a pretty conservative hunter when it comes. I hate spooking game. Like, I just hate it. It makes me sick. But I've gotten better with that because of deer hunting, and because I've seen the results of being just like super aggressive, and that's helped me with turkey hunting too. Like, I still just get sick when I spook a turkey, because it's just like, it seems so preventable. Like, you can hear them, like, I feel like there's no reason you should spook one if it's gobbling, because like you knew where he's at. Like, you're just being just too nonchalant. But like,
for turkeys, it seems a lot more final too. Like, if you spook that bird, he might not come back to that roost spot. That's the way it feels.
Well, at least for the day. He
might not talk.
You probably just blew it. But yeah, it has helped me try to be a little more aggressive. Not necessarily like in, maybe pursuing one that's gobbling or whatever. Like, I know where to set up and how I want all that to unfold. But like, maybe getting close to the roost site, off off the rip or pushing in, waking up earlier and getting close or whatever. But just that mindset helps you across the board, because to kill both of them, to pursue any game other than maybe like waterfowl or something, like being aggressive, more times than not, probably gets you an opportunity. That's what Corey, one thing he always says that, I don't know, some mornings I agree with, some mornings I don't, but it's probably a good rule of thumb to live by, is he's always like, I'm either going to kill him or I'm going to spook him. And he just means like, I'm gonna get in so tight that like it's either gonna happen or I'm gonna blow him out of here. And I've seen that bite him a time or two, but I've also seen it work a lot. So but either way, it's always fun too when you just get close to whatever.
You can approach it that way, or you can stay conservative. And like I remember Bill Winke doing this when he was hunting some big deer on his farm in Iowa, and he would just hunt the fringes. It's like, well, if all you ever do is hunt the fringes, you can hunt all the time, and that deer might not ever walk by the fringe you're hunting. Mm-hmm. And so the deer's there, but you're basically hunting ghost because he's not where you are ever. And so, I mean, maybe you can hunt the fringe a couple of times if the weather's not perfect, and the weather gets perfect, and you better dive in there and give it a go. And, throw caution to the wind every now and then.
I think there's a difference, too. I always end up going back to turkeys just because I love turkeys so much. But, like, there's a difference between being aggressive and being, what's the opposite of patient? Impatient. Yeah. Like, I've seen a lot of guys it's not aggression, it's impatience. They don't let the situation play out, and then they go busting, and it's just like, you didn't spook him because you were aggressive. You spooked him because you weren't patient enough.
The difference would be being aggressive is calculated. Yeah. And the opposite of that is being reckless.
Yeah, which very is much so.
Like, I mean, wrestling, same thing in football. If you're aggressive, it doesn't mean that you're just out there flailing your arms. You probably have a strategy, and you're just executing on that with vigor.
Right.
You're not being reckless.
Right.
When you hunt, don't be reckless. Yeah. But you can certainly be aggressive. Yeah, that's a good point. Get a game plan and execute the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Something that my mind went to, because this podcast has kind of seemed like we're talking about things that seem a certain way, or maybe something someone does or whatever that can be debunked. I heard today someone talking about, and this was like a very like prominent, well-known deer hunter who kills a lot of big deer, and he said on a podcast, how was the question posed? Basically, they were talking about like, deer that you have pattern, whatever, that disappear, and he was talking about like opening day of gun season, how if you don't kill them like that first day or first or second day, like they're gone because of pressure. Mm-hmm. And the guy was like, well, where do they go? What do they do? Like, they go somewhere. Like, where did they go? And he's like, oh, they're just nocturnal. And I remember Bill Winke always talking about, these bucks went nocturnal, and then somebody somewhere I heard say like, that's not a thing. Yeah. Like, they're somewhere and they're moving during daylight always. You just aren't there.
Yep.
So do you think the guys that are saying like this deer went nocturnal mean that like they're literally not doing anything, not moving until it's dark? Or do you think they just mean like where my camera is, like he's no longer showing up in daylight? Or do you think they literally think, like, I think most of them literally think, like, this thing went and laid down somewhere, and he is just sitting there like this until it's pitch black, and then he's like, okay,
I agree.
Time for my day to start.
I agree. Well, what you said is he's nocturnal because he's not on my camera until after dark. And I would say, compared to he's staying in his bed until it is dark. And I think that they use the evidence that he's not on their trail cameras until after dark to support the fact that they think he's staying in his bed until it's dark.
Yeah.
So, absolutely, that deer is going to do what deer do. And there are some deer that they get up really late. There's other deer that get up really early, just like there's difference in people. But that deer is up and moving somewhere.
Yeah.
If you aren't seeing him, but he's on your trail camera 15 minutes after daylight, you're probably just 200 yards too far away.
Yep.
It's
like, so funny to hear, like,
deer aren't nocturnal. They're diurnal. They're awake during the day and at night. Yep. They always have been. They always will be, regardless of hunting pressure, regardless of barometric pressure, regardless of the moon. Yep. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
So deer don't go nocturnal.
Get your drone out and you'll hover over them. You'll find that they're awake and moving. Yeah.
Don't do that.
I just think that's so funny. And it's so funny, too, to just how polar opposites. Like, I listen to like Cody DeQuisto's stuff, and they're like literally intentionally going in to jump a 5.5-year-old 180 out of its bed on purpose to get it out of there so they can set up on it the next morning. And then you have other guys that are like, if you spook him, like,
he ran to the next county.
He's gone forever.
How many times do we hear that? Oh, he's in the next county by now. It's like, where we are, he'd have to run for a long way to get to the next county.
Yeah. It's just so funny. It's like, you got two, like, I say this about, like, doctors when you go and get, two opinions from doctors and they both give you completely different answers. Like, one of them's right and one of them's wrong, but they're both doctors giving you medical advice. And if you didn't go see two, you would have just listened to one who may be the one that's wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, same thing with that. Like, one of them, there's not a right or wrong, but one of them's got to be more right. As a whole, it's got to either be, they don't care as much as you think they do and they'll come back there, or, they care as much as you think they do and you just really screwed up. Like, one of them's got to be more true.
Right.
I don't know which one it is, but they both work, I guess.
Right.
It's crazy. Anymore, I lean more towards, I feel like they put up with more than we think they do.
Oh, 100%. They wouldn't live in our area at all if they didn't,
Especially because, like, I think so many of them are spooking and busting you, and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
Like, how many times must you walk in somewhere and he was 100 yards away, just out of sight, and 1,000% smelled you, and you have no clue?
Yep.
Like,
well, or the opposite. How many times have you walked in and we've had this experience where you're hunting in an area that's fairly urban and there's people all around, and so they're kind of used to it, and so they don't really get spooked by human scent unless they're within 50 yards of that human scent. Same thing can happen the opposite way. They are an adaptable critter. They can live pretty much anywhere, and I mean they live in the metro parks in big cities. It's like they're gonna adapt and figure it out, and they're smart. God has equipped them with pretty good senses, and they can rely on those senses, their sense of sight and smell, to keep them safe. They've survived this long. It's not like they're gonna.
I don't know. I think that's a super interesting topic, because you get guys like, I think Lee and Tiffany have talked about how, like, they spend so much time on their property that the deer are, like, literally used to them, and like they do that on purpose, like running around with their dogs and stuff, whatever. And then you have like your Don Higgins, who's like, human intrusion is the number one factor to killing big deer. Like, if you are intruding on your properties, you will not kill big deer. And they both have how many 200 inchers? And they're hunting like the same areas, so it's just wild. It's almost like it's less about what you're doing and more about whatever you believe in, like whatever you're super confident with, and like the juju that does or doesn't put out is what you need to stick with.
Well, and I mean, it may be that a guy like Don Higgins' approach to hunting whitetails suits a less intrusive style of hunting in order to be successful, and it may be that Lee and Tiffany's style of hunting is more suited for there to be constant intrusion. Doesn't mean that either one. It's like we talked about in the last podcast, the difference between kids' personalities and their temperaments. It's like deer can be that way too, and if you're a hunter that wants to be able to go out and walk in the woods, just do it, and the deer will probably get used to it if it's not threatening to them over time. Like, if you go out in the woods every day and you shoot at a deer every day, I don't think deer are going to come back. Like, I'm sorry. At least not while you're out there, because they're associating you with the shots. But if you're just running around with your dogs and nothing ever happens to them, they might tolerate it over time, and eventually it's not that big of a deal. So Don Higgins, his approach to hunting probably relies on not having human intrusion.
Right.
And vice versa. I don't know.
That
is different.
Dad asked me that with mushroom hunting back here. He's like, do you think that like affects the deer? And I was like, I don't mean, if anything, like doing it more, I would think they'd just be like getting used to it in a sense, but I don't know.
Well, in this time of year, it's not like you're going to go in mushroom hunting and spook a deer and he's going to be gone in October. That's not a thing.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that at all. But
so, I wouldn't be. I think the whole concept of like leave it alone. I mean, when we were turkey hunting with Eli, this is for turkeys, which I think are a lot more skittish than deer are, especially to human engagement. The guy said that the hens would put their nests up by the cattle barns, like where people are every single day. And he thinks it's because they feel safe up there, because predators aren't going to come around when there's big 1,000, 1,200 pound cows walking around. Huh. Yeah, he said that when we were in the side-by-side driving around. He was like, this is where they nest. It's right up here by the barn. Huh. We'll find a nest underneath an old disc, or we'll find a nest underneath the rock pile somewhere. It's all right up by the cattle farm.
No kidding.
So he's like, even the turkeys have adapted to the human intrusion. They're
Dude,
out
that
there.
might be a secret. That might be why the bird numbers are so good there.
Could be.
Huh.
Could
That's
be. Because the nests are protected there.
Yeah.
He's like, I mean, I don't know how true that is necessarily. I tend to think that turkeys are way more instinctual than they are intelligent. But if a turkey can adapt to human intrusion, certainly a deer could.
Yeah. The only thing that makes me lean towards like Don's model is like I can think of 2 properties right now that aren't hunted by us, that don't allow hunting, and there's very rarely people on them, and they're like deer meccas. One you should be able to think of too, because
I know both of them,
and that has to be a correlation to the lack of human activity on them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that may be true. I mean, there's the idea of the sanctuary where the deer can go to be safe, but that doesn't mean that that's the only place they're going to be.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely not. And if you can hunt close to that, that's somebody. I heard somebody say that.
If I was out and something was hunting me and there was a spot that I knew they couldn't go, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
To the spot where they can't get me,
Yeah.
So I think it's natural for a deer to want to do that too, or to figure that out eventually over time. Especially if that property is big enough. I don't think if you have a 50-acre piece that's not being hunted, it's going to hold.
No.
I think the properties you're talking about are a couple 100 acres, if not more.
One of them's 20 acres, but still there's just deer crawling on it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's case by case and area specific, but I know a guy that bought, I think it was like 120 acres, and he purposely didn't hunt it for 3 years. He's like, I'm not going to touch it for 3 years, and like watched some like giants on it, and then started hunting it and killed like giants.
Yeah, I think that probably does play. Like you mentioned, Lee and Tiffany, how many acres are they hunting out there?
Gosh. Dude, I think he said, I listened to him on.
So it's not like their human intrusion on 1,000 acres is going to run all the deer off of that 1,000 acres. They're just going to go in circles around that 1,000 acres.
I think he has. I think the property his house is on is like 800 some acres, and he's got like multiple farms. That's just crazy, dude.
Yeah. And so, but if you take like in our area, if you take that 800 acres and you split it up into all the different parcels that our area would make up 800 acres, you're talking about probably 50 or 60 different hunters on that 800 acres, all on different properties. It's like, if you have one that's 20 acres and it's not getting pressured, maybe the deer will gravitate toward that spot, where if it's 800 contiguous acres and you're just walking around it all the time, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
And I would assume too that that practice is probably different during hunting season.
Yeah.
Than it is out of
hunting
season.
Sure.
So I know they shed hunt with their dogs all over the place, but that's in March. That's not in October, November when they're doing that stuff.
Well, and they have, probably the cream of the crop habitat too. So it's like, where are they going to go? And they're not going to leave there for sure. But yeah,
all those little nuances. Yeah, my perspective has changed on a lot of things. Like back to the beginning of talking about shooting turkeys with bows and arrows, there are a lot of things that I agree with or disagree with now that when I started hunting, I had no clue what I would have thought.
Yeah.
Or I thought the exact opposite.
That's why I try to keep a really open mind now, because I've realized how many things I've changed my mind on just because I've heard somebody talk about it a certain way, and I'm like, I agree with that, or somebody has challenged my thinking, whatever, and like I'm more than willing to change it again or change it back or whatever. Like I used to like plant my flag and like my way or the highway, this is right, you're wrong, whatever, and I just realize now that there's stuff out there that I haven't even thought of yet that kind of goes back to the old saying, like, you don't know what you don't know.
There are a lot of things too outside of the hunting world, but also inside of it, that like it seemed like 100 years ago nobody was doing research about hunting. Like if you knew something about the way an animal behaved, it was because of an old wives' tale or some anecdotal experience that you had, or the good old boys that were helping you out or something.
Or you observed it.
Right, an experience, yeah. And then science came along and people started studying these things, and like it seemed like the science was influenced by the opinion of a couple of people, and so the research started to go in that direction, which was like what you talked about, where human intrusion is bad. I don't know if there's any evidence that shows that that's actually the case universally across the board. And now it seems more the case that the science today is actually in more support of the old wives' tales and the old trapper stories from 100 years ago. I think that's true in hunting. I think that's true in terms of our food. That's certainly true in terms of medicine.
Oh, you're seeing a lot of those old ways.
They're being validated
back around. Yeah,
they're being validated.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like, yeah, you're seeing that in hunting too. A lot of people are circling back to no camouflage, to traditional gear, to throwing a lot of that technology to the wayside and getting back to like your roots. That's a great point. Yeah. And you're seeing, which is interesting, you're seeing a large influx of people, and I guess they just go in hand, that are like wanting to make it harder, which is cool.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know why, but maybe that's just a natural progression that's always been there, where you start when you're young and it is hard, and then you figure things out and it becomes easier for you naturally, and then you just want a different challenge, so you have to remove things to make it hard again. I don't know. But
there'll always be people who want to take the easy route, but certainly there are people out there who are like, I mean, like, the corn pile is kind of disenchanting a little bit. There are certain situations where I think it works, and I'm not opposed to, it's a tool to have in your toolbox. It's something you want to be able to have access to and utilize if you want to, but like, my goodness, we spent so much money on corn piles when we were like 17, 18 years old. We spent so much money on corn piles.
And that was like the only way we hunted too.
And that's what a lot of people everybody did. Like, it wasn't like anybody was doing anything different. It just seemed like if you were a hunter, you were buying corn.
Think how effective a corn, because I think in Ohio, I think it's always been legal, but when we first started hunting, we never did
like
that.
When we were
I don't know
8,
that
9,
Dad
10 years old.
Yeah, he never purchased a bag of corn ever.
No.
Imagine how effective it probably would have been back then, when not everyone was doing it and there was like giants everywhere.
Do you remember how we found out that was something we had the option to do? I don't remember something had to have influenced our...
I think we had to have been in college. Like, it wasn't that long ago. Like, I'm trying to think back, like, even when Rachel killed... Well, 2013, I killed that buck over corn. I think that would have been the first year. So I would have been a senior in high school.
It seems like it was a lot longer ago than that.
Yeah, 12 years ago. But in the grand scheme of things, yeah, like, growing up, like, we never, ever.
No, we just sat in the woods like bumps on logs.
Yeah, it had to
literally.
Have been YouTube. Like, I mean, it had to have been seeing it on YouTube. Probably is my guess.
I was trying to think back of who the individual was or what the channel was that started doing that stuff. Like, Monster Bucks didn't do that in their DVDs, like.
If they did, I know a lot of those TV shows, like, hit it. Put it behind logs, or I heard somebody even, like, somehow color in it or something so it was brown and not yellow. Yeah, I don't know.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there's so much conspiracy around, maybe not even conspiracy, but there's so much chat around corn and baiting and what it does to the turkeys and everything else. Like that, I know we talked on the last one about turkey numbers and stuff, but like, you can't help but wonder, like, with the influx of people baiting and then line that up with the turkey decline. Like,
well, and in our area, it seemed like the turkey population declined, and the rise of outfitters feeding corn intentionally for deer all over this area, that happened at the same time. Is that they were increasing and decreasing together.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'd love to know how many people have shot one in like this area, the last couple of seasons, like 100% like not using corn. Like not a bag on the property, period. I'd love to know. It's got to be the minority.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, the number of you drive around and the number of box blinds and tripod feeders you see out is unreal.
Yeah. I look at land listings every single day, and almost every new property that hits the market now has a box blind on it. Yeah. Comes with, this two elevated blinds, whatever. Like, it's just weird how.
Yeah.
I'm not against blinds at all. We have one, obviously, and they're nice to hunt out of, something a little bit different, change of pace, good to take young hunters.
Yeah.
Or, older hunters as well, like whatever. Good in the cold, but it's odd to see, like you said, I drive down 71 and it's like they're everywhere. That's how it is, like.
Well, and they existed 10 years ago, but those were gun hunters. And today, the guys that are hunting out of those things are shooting crossbows a lot of times. I mean, that's what the outfitter that we took Eli turkey hunting on. Most of the hunters that he has want a crossbow in a box blind.
I don't even think he said that they want that. He wants that. The guide said he recommends and prefers you to shoot a crossbow because he feels like less people will wound deer.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's weird.
I mean, I tend to disagree with that because of shooting at long distances. There's way too many variables, but still.
I think there was a poll or something about that. Where was that? I think we've talked about it, but basically more deer were wounded via crossbow, not because of the crossbow themselves, but because people had an unwavering sense of
like reliability in the weapon to do the job.
I can shoot farther because I have this tool, and then therefore wounding deer. I bet that happens. Also, I think more people are shooting crossbows, so naturally, of deer that are wounded, there are going to be more that are done via
Do you think it's
crossbow.
50%?
Of what?
Is it 50% crossbow hunters, 50% compound or recurve hunters? Do you think it's 50-50? Vertical bow versus horizontal bow?
2 years ago, 72% of the archery harvests in Ohio were crossbow.
Holy crap.
Yeah. 72% of the archery harvest. That's wild. I think I told you, I'm sure I mentioned this on one of the episodes, but I talked to Lane at the Sportsman's Den, and he said they sold, it was like a week or two before the season, I want to say he said they sold over 200 crossbows in a week. And actually, no, it might have been like 700. If you listen back to one of our other podcasts, it was like the day before we recorded, and I mentioned it. I think it was over 100 in a day, and it was like 700 on the week. Yeah, insane.
Like the previous podcast, you mentioned that the guy you were having a discussion with about turkey populations said only 25% of the hunters in this state shoot their 2-bird limit. It's not really that big of an impact. So why do you need to change the rule? It's like, in Ohio, if you think that the deer population numbers are not doing so hot, or if you think that the age class of your buck is not doing so hot, and 72% of people are killing them with crossbows, maybe you should do something about that. You could probably change that overnight. I didn't know it was that high.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
That was like 2 years. That was, I think, 2023 or maybe even 2022. So I'm sure it's probably higher now.
Now, do you think that is a sign of people taking the easy way out, or is it a sign of aged hunters that can't draw their bow anymore and go back? I don't think so either.
When I was buying my recurve, there was like 5 or 6 dudes our age, like completely able-bodied and fit, buying crossbows.
That's so funny.
I was in there. I felt like
not funny.
I felt like superior in a way. I'm in here, buying a recurve in my 30s, and you got 5 dudes the same age that are going there buying a freaking crossbow. I was like, this is ridiculous.
I've talked about this before, but when Hannah and I met, and I told her that I was a hunter, she said that was like a major red flag. Because of the hunters that she knew, they were the guys that went on deer drives drunk and would just shoot anything that moved. And they only gun hunted. They were worse than Elmer Fudd's. And so I told her the way that we did things, she was like, that doesn't make any sense. Nobody around me hunts that way. So we were fortunate to be brought up in a different hunting culture, but it's like her friends that only did deer drives and hunted during gun season and did it drunk in high school and shot anything that moved. Those are the guys that are now going out and buying Raven crossbows.
Probably, yeah.
That's sad.
Well, they're like, and sad. People know it too. Like, I can think of a handful of people right off the top of my head that all do it that are like our age, and like they know that it's the easy way, and they know that people are looking at them poorly and ragging on them and making fun of them, quite frankly, and like they don't care. There's no sense of like pride, I guess, in it anymore.
Is that the word came up when we were talking about turkey hunting, the hedonism? Hedonist would be someone that's only interested in self gratification in the moment. They don't care about the journey to get to the success. They just want the success.
Yeah.
Is that what's happening in deer hunting?
Probably.
People just want the 2-hundo, and so they're going to get a crossbow and shoot 85 yards with it?
Probably, yeah, probably. Jeez. I've been messing around with AI just because it's fun, and I was trying to do it again tonight using the Grok or whatever, which is like the X AI, trying to get a picture of what I've been typing is photo of crossbow hunter shaking hands with hunter holding a turkey fan, trying to like, a guy that reaps turkeys and a guy at crossbow like shaking hands, like same thing basically. To me, those are like the same type of people.
Sure.
Like just easy, don't care to whatever, make it a challenge, and just gonna keep doing it the same way. Sure. Like, I don't know, whatever floats your boat, I guess. But it's odd. It's just very strange. Like, I don't know what is in or not in people that choose that path that are completely able-bodied, because just like for us, it's like you want it to be a little harder. You want the challenge. It's more rewarding. No, doing it that way.
Like, there are certainly instances. I mean, I've killed deer with a crossbow for sure. Sitting on a man-made ground blind and a bunch of sticks, and I shot the doe at like 15 yards. I wasn't shooting at 85 yards like a lot of these guys are today. I would love to know. And the Ohio DNR certainly should do this, but DNRs across the board should definitely start asking when you submit a game check, they should ask how far the shot was.
People wouldn't be truthful. Half people probably wouldn't even know.
Well, that's probably true. I would fill it out every time.
Yeah.
I would take my rangefinder to the yard and measure it every time and submit that.
You would get people that are truthful and honest with it,
but even if 10% of the crossbow harvests show like a drastically further shot than 50 yards, then you can clearly point to the fact that crossbows are contributing to the decline that we see in the quality and overall population of the deer herd. If crossbow hunters are shooting 50 yards and more, and it's only 10% of crossbow hunters that submit those surveys and actually answer the question, like even if 10% of crossbow hunters answer that survey and half of them are lying on the form, if it still shows that it's more than 40 yards, then crossbows become a problem.
Yeah.
Because now your archery tackle is doing what most shotguns 15 years ago, 20 years ago couldn't do. If you have an open sight shotgun, you're not going to shoot a deer at 50 yards. It's really hard to do.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. After
that's crazy. I did not know it was 72% of hunters. That's crazy.
After speaking at that DNR meeting, like, it became very apparent that they just want deer killed. They don't give a rat's ass about how it's done, in what way. Like, they just want them dead. And
that's
by any means
they're
possible.
Being lobbied by the insurance companies who don't want to deal with car accidents anymore from deer. Probably we've heard that for a long time. That's part of it. I think the other part of it is that we as hunters have a drastically different connection with the resource that's near and dear to our heart than someone who is concerned about water potability or concerned about wetland preservation or boating access. Yep. And it's all lumped under the same branch. Ohio Department of Natural Resources takes care of coal mines, and it takes care of waterfowl, and it takes care of ginseng, and it takes care of everything else.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear based on who was on the panel for the DNR that most of those people don't have any clue about hunting or fishing at all.
No.
They're just on it because who knows why.
Yeah.
Didn't you say there was a doctor on the panel?
I think so, yeah. And there was a lady there who was very nice and friendly, and she was from, like, Louisiana, and they were talking about, like, the hogs or something. Oh, no, I guess she did know a little bit about the hogs because, she was referring to where she's from in Louisiana. But I think it was when I was up there talking, I mentioned cell cameras, and she looked at me like, what the hell is a cell camera?
Yeah, that's a big problem if those are the people making your decisions at the state level.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, looking back, I wish I never even spoke. Like, it felt like at the time, like it was going to make a difference.
It was really anticlimactic.
It didn't do anything at all. I think... Yeah, it didn't do anything. The one guy was like, okay, you hit your 3 minutes or whatever, thank you. Like, they just knew they had to allow you to do it, and then completely disregard and probably didn't think anything further past it.
No.
Which is a shame, because you want to feel like you have a say, but it made me feel the opposite. I was like,
Well, this is why, at least politically, from my perspective, what's happening at the federal government should happen at the state level government too, because there's probably a lot of stuff that's wasteful spending inside of the DNR that doesn't really matter at all.
We need a Doge for...
I absolutely believe
state
that.
level.
Especially because regardless of who the governor is, like, the people inside the ODNR are not elected. They're never on anybody's ballot. It's probably just indefinite in a definite position, regardless of the administration. To me, that's a big problem, because now you're not in it for the right reasons. Like, I would love to be part of, after I'm done raising kids, I would love to be part of the ODNR, to actually go in there and try to make some positive change. And then after 4 years, let somebody else come in and do it. I wouldn't look for a position where it's just like a cushy job where you don't have anything to do and you got to let someone stand up for 3 minutes every month during one meeting that you have after hours. Like, the rest of it is it's a political game. It's nonsense.
Yeah. Yep. It stinks, because you feel like you feel hopeless, and it's like all the things that you want to see, you feel like it's not going to change in our lifetime. And it might, if it gets bad enough, it may. But yeah, it's just a shame. You feel just hopeless, I guess, or helpless is the right word. But
well, we went
like I said in the last one, and I don't want to start covering the same stuff we covered then, but then again, I wonder, maybe it's not as bad as we think it is, and maybe we're just lucky to still be able to shoot a couple nice deer every season or whatever. I don't know. But there are definitely still good places out there.
There are.
For sure.
And there always have been, and Lord willing, there always will be.
And I wish I started buying land in 3rd grade. My gosh. There was a new property that came up for sale like 10 miles from here. $17,000 an acre.
Tillable?
17 some. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Some tillable. So it was like half tillable. It was 39 acres.
And it was less than 10 years ago that Dad bought his 50 acres for less than $3,000 an acre.
Yeah.
Less than 10 years. You tell me inflation's not a big problem.
Yeah. Crazy, dude. Sickening. Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else, do you? I'm sure I'll think of something.
It'll be interesting to see. We went from talking about archery tackle for turkeys and saddles to what's going on in the DNR. All of that stuff lumped together just shows that there has been rolling change happening in the hunting space for as long as we can remember. It'll be interesting to look back and see like what things are like and how they're different when Eli's like 20.
Yeah.
10, 12, 15 years from now.
Everybody was shooting 12 gauges. Turkey hunting now, there's a huge swing to 20 gauges. Maybe everybody should be shooting 410s by then.
Or they'll bring back like the old 16 gauge or the 28 gauge shotguns.
Yeah. Actually, when Dad and I were out west, I tried getting permission on this piece. We got permission on the piece, but he asked me if I'd ever turkey hunted with a 28 gauge. I was like, I don't even know if I've ever seen a 28 gauge.
Yeah, they're not common.
So yeah, he was telling us all about it. Yeah, that was. Oh shoot!
Did that just happen?
Yeah, I think. Well, our camera just filled up on storage, so the last part of this podcast will be video only. Thank you guys for watching.
Audio only.
Or audio only. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.